This is the Tapped In Podcast, the podcast for beverage distributors that want to empower their sales team to drive business results. Listen up and welcome back to another episode of the Tapped In Sales Podcast, your podcast for beer distributors by beer distributors. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Bud, here with Moneyball Ross and Data Mike. And boys, we have made it to 100. This is the 100th episode.
Crazy.
Well, not for me. I joined like halfway through, so this is like 50 for me.
Well, but you still are here, and the podcast itself has made it to 100 episodes. So we're here to celebrate that. Although Mike has survived doing 100 episodes with me. You know, you've only survived 50. Everybody else listening has survived 100.
And Ross, you're part of the show, whether you like it or not.
That is right. He always was part of the show, even if he was behind the scenes.
Yep.
So today we not necessarily are going to run through a handful of like lessons, I think would be the best way to put them, things that we've learned in the first 100 episodes. This will be a little bit different take, maybe some revisits to some past episodes here and there. And really, we've spent 100 episodes talking about sales, profit, incentives, leadership, supplier pressures, everything that's going on in the categories with beer, THC, non-alcoholic, and even route to market changes where it's like people have done known reroutes. We've had Wes on the podcast. We talked to clients about them doing the reorg, a whole bunch of other stuff. So today, we want to boil it down into conversations of like, what's actually driving sales, what actually driving profit, what actually driving performance for us beer distributors, and just kind of like go through some of that, right? So really, as we get to the list, and we're going to go into like, we'll see how many lessons we get through, right? We've got a group of them. We won't publicly talk about how many they are. If we get to all of them, then we will. If we don't, we won't. But we will get through most of them. So as we get into the list and we look back over our first 100 episodes, before we do the lessons, anything fun and anecdotal jump out to you, Mike or Ross, about doing the podcast and just having this as a place to talk about it, interaction with the reps, anything good like that?
I really never pictured myself as a podcaster. But it's fun, you know, now that we're into it, it's a lot of fun. I have fun with you guys, and it's cool to be out in the market in different areas, different states, and, you know, listeners come up and say, hey, I really like what you guys are doing. You know, we get emails and stuff like that. So it's great to hear the feedback, and know that people are listening and actually finding some value in it too.
That's right.
I know we got kind of at the end, but I mean, I got a disappointment that we didn't follow through on Bud's original idea of making Mike eat weird food all over the country.
Well, we still are going to do that little by little.
I mean, this is the guy that eats chicken strips and orders off the kids menu. So
There's nothing wrong with that.
I think Mike and I've always enjoyed torturing Mike with Indian food, Thai food, ramen. Oh man, it's fun torture. It should have been part of
it. Have you ever seen the YouTube video of the kid eating like the chicken wings or the chicken nuggets, and he's like, "It's homemade. It's homemade." That's Mikey's favorite.
I love homemade chicken tendies.
Oh, I love it. Well, let's get into let's get into some lessons from the first 100 episodes. So we're gonna have some fun with these. One of the things that really, lesson number one, right? It starts with kind of the inspiration to the pod, talking about what we do professionally. Volume can hide bad decisions. So this is one of the most tapped in sales podcast ideas. The volume can hide bad decisions and really make yourself look more busy and not drive results down on the bottom line. So in your guys' mind, coming back, because this was one of the early episodes that we did, right, Mikey? So we'll give the floor to Ross to get started. So like, why is volume fooling people so easily on a regular basis, Ross?
What are you trying to achieve? Is the goal of the business to put boxes on trucks? Or is it to maximize your profitability?
You can't take boxes to the bank.
I mean,
over and over
boxes are
again.
downstream. And I think the other thing too is nobody looks at it from a cost accounting perspective. Nobody really thinks about, I say nobody, we've got some good clients out there, but you need to be looking at it from a delivery cost per case perspective. And I think if you do that exercise, you're going to be pretty depressed. You'll find out that a good chunk of your case volume, your big volume movers, are below that number. Now, that's not to say that you need to remove anything that's below your cost of delivery, because at that point, then your cost of delivery shoots up. So it's kind of a doom loop. But it's always a good exercise to go through that and figure out what your cost per case for delivery are fully loaded. When I say that, I mean like adding in all the costs of the business on a per case basis. I think you'll find out that a box isn't a box when you do that.
Yeah. To me, that's always a big jumping off point for clients that are thinking about this. Like, hey, your average cost to deliver is actually like $4.87 a case, or $5.62 a case. I mean, it could be all over the board because there's a whole host.
It depends on your geography and the circumstances. It's different for everybody.
Yep. But when you do that, it's like, oh, well, a lot of these boxes that we sell are, they're filling the truck, but the money that we make from them isn't actually filtering to the bottom line. It's funding costs in some way, shape, or form, but also funding pieces of the business, but not necessarily funding profitability of the organization.
Absolutely. And it feels good. Volume can feel good because it creates motion. Boxes are moving, the reps look busy, suppliers see cases moving, they're happy because that's basically the only thing that they're really scoring themselves on is the volume. Leadership feels the momentum, and everything feels like it's moving, but it doesn't tell you whether the business is actually getting healthier.
Well, half of everything is luck, right? And one of the things in my life is being in the right place at the right time is half the battle, right? And we're uniquely in a position where our business sits in that the volume game isn't doing what it used to do. In fact, it's working in reverse. 15 years ago, it was up and to the right on volume. Every year, more volume, everybody could kumbaya. That's not the case anymore. Now we're in a situation where we're getting persistent, continuing declining volume. So if your metric is volume, and that's what you feel you tied your entire feel good or feeling around your business to, it's a pretty depressing place. But I think we're uniquely positioned now too that profitability matters and there's more opportunity than ever. And we're uniquely positioned as distributors in terms of our position in the market, that if you reorient yourself to something, well, you should anyway, but if you reorient yourself from volume to GP, all of a sudden the picture goes from, depressing declines to exciting increases year over year with declining average cost per case. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the same world, but completely different paradigm. So I think, again, where we're positioned as a business is great for that. I mean, being in our industry in 07, 08 was an incredible godsend. And anybody that was in the industry at that time, like you look at around your friend group and you're like, oh shit, thank God I'm in the beer business.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I see a lot of situations too. I mean, it's that old school mentality way of thinking where it was just volume, like Bud said, and volume just equaled profits. But there's that disconnect now to where there's still a lot of activities, and you see a lot of data where volume is growing, but GP is suffering. It came at a GP loss to grow that volume. You see a lot of situations too where this big, massive display, it looks beautiful, and it's 150 cases, but you're only going to sell maybe 90 of them. And if you pick up the rest, that's fine because we had that huge display and a huge sale, and it looks great, but we're not actually driving the repeat sales. It just looked impressive, And the dangerous part is really when an organization starts celebrating activity instead of outcomes. You start rewarding activity, you get more activity, not necessarily better results. And that's
a Steve Jessup, creating activity for activity's sake, or creating activity to drive to the bottom line. One of my favorite sayings that I've said on the pod over and over again. Lesson number 2, profit focus changes behavior faster than rah-rahs or slogans do. We talked a ton about this on the show about GP per CE, the contributions and real profitability. And, the big takeaways is like how you can actually focus on profit and change a behavior the faster than you think. So, Mikey, when we're talking to reps about changing the rep behavior, like why does it actually matter that they see the scoreboard in the terms of GP per CE, or what we like to talk about, GP per CE for the most part, and that really hyper detail all the way down at the package level.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to, and this is one of my favorite things that we always talk about on the show, but it comes down to when people can see the game, they're going to play the game better, and they're going to play the game smarter. Reps can really start to see how margin works and why it matters, and it's so rewarding to me, and it's fun to be out in the market with reps that we're working with for the first time that start to realize the difference in profitability and start to go, oh wow. I mean, we had a call earlier this week. I don't know if Bud, I don't think you were on it, but Ross and I were on it, and the light bulbs were just going off on one of their suppliers that they had. And they're like, wow, we only sold X amount of cases, but that was our biggest GP driver in that entire account. And you never would have guessed it. To the rep thinking, oh, that's just, it's okay. Medium of the pack, middle of the pack, but it was the number one gross profit driver in the account. So watching those light bulbs go off to me is so rewarding, but you have to show the scoreboard if you want anybody to play the game.
I mean, one of the most interesting things I've observed over time, and it continues to come up, is this hesitancy to talk about, show, incentivize profitability. Because you'll sit here and sit across from suppliers and they're talking about pushing their most profitable brands, but don't talk about profit. Let's talk about volume. But these are our most important brands, because why? We're not going to tell you why, but we all know that what's the elephant in the room. It's because they're your most profitable packages, because they're our most profitable packages. Because they're our retailers' most profitable packages. Why can't we talk about that? And then we don't want to cascade it down to our sales reps, but then we sit around as an executive team all day talking about profitability. And as soon as we leave that executive room, it's like, can't talk about this anymore, as if it's a kind of like super secret thing that never leaves the boardroom. Well, if it never leaves the boardroom, how the hell are you going to execute against it? They're just numbers on a piece of paper that you want to get to.
We want to change the world when it comes to leadership, right? And you want to change the world, the way your business operates, whatever. You don't do that. The only way to actually do that is to change somebody's perspective. If we change somebody's perspective, they can change the world. And by exposing reps to GP per CE and talking about it, all we're trying to do is actually change the rep's perspective. We've seen this with firsthand at Atlas, Mikey, watching the light bulbs go off. We watch it with reps day in and day out right now. If we change their perspective, they change the world. That's the magic sauce between the two. And, even working out with a client that would be fun to kind of collaborate with, that's working on onboarding right now, they formerly paid their client or their distributor reps, Ross, on GP. And we're like, it didn't really work. And I'm like, okay, well, how detailed did we go? Did we set a GP target? Did we go to GP per CE? Did we coach and change their perspective? And they said, we just set a target, like a dollar target, like a volume target. We just set it as GP, but we never went any further. I said, well, we've seen this rodeo before. When you change the rep's perspective, you do have to go all the way down to the detail of it so they can understand and interpret, change their perspective. Then they change the world for you.
Absolutely. It's that culture thing we've talked about many times too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Change the culture, you're going to see the outcome you're expecting.
Mm-hmm. I think it's also important to say, like, the tools that you provide and the management team can help set the culture or set the direction of culture, but you aren't the culture. The culture is the sales team, right? It's the people that, it's the, 90% of the company that shows up every day from 9 to 5, right? That's the culture of the business. And you can provide the tools to set the direction, but you ain't the culture. Culture is, the 80% of the business.
I'm going to tease you guys with a plan that I've been brewing up on my own. We've got a industry expert from a different industry that pays their sales reps exclusively on profitability. It's the way that their business was built. And we're going to bring them on and have them talk about how other industry tackles this challenge and what they do. I think it'd be a good conversation around, hey, it's not just, knuckleheads that tapped in that are talking about this. There's a whole host of other industries like this is the only way that reps get paid, and that this is the way of that it goes. This is the way from the Mandalorian kind of concept in a lot of other industries. So I think it'll be fun in a future episode to have that person on and share some more from TJ's perspective about how he goes about it with his team and how they execute on it for sure. Lesson number 3. one of our favorites, easy bonuses become entitlement. So one of the things that a lot of people reacted over the first 100 episodes is that if a bonus becomes predictable and reliable, people start expecting it, and it's less treated like a performance reward in their mind. It becomes an entitlement, and the fastest way to get an entitlement is to offer it over and over again and have it become predictable and reliable. So how these things happen psychologically, how you play in with them. This is something we've heard from clients as a response over and over again. We've had a couple of clients that have re-engineered their whole, bonus structure, the kind of the fringe bonus structure around this concept that wouldn't necessarily be like daily pay or monthly pay or quarterly pay in any way. But the turkeys, the hams for Christmas, things like that, Mikey, that become a requirement because they're predictable and reliable, and then everybody expects them.
Yeah. This was one of my favorite topics, and we actually did a seminar on this one too, and got some great feedback. But we relate to it because of what was happening at Atlas, and we had firsthand experience with this. But it's just human psychology. If somebody gets a bonus 5 months in a row, you really stop thinking about it as a bonus. It becomes part of their paycheck. And the moment performance dips, company adjusts programs, and something changes, it feels like that was taken away. Right? Not that you just didn't earn it, it was taken away from you. So even if it was never guaranteed in the first place, you're going to feel like that. I feel like something was ripped out from you, and I was supposed to have that. And that's why incentives, objectives, any kind of PFP has to really, bonus programs, stay connected to performance. Once variable pay becomes predictable, you're not driving behavior, you're just managing expectations. And that's a recipe for disaster. And I mean, we saw it firsthand. We had so many people really comment and interact when we did our seminar, and even with the podcast episode. I don't know if you want to plug that number to go back and listen to it, but it was a great one.
I think anytime you find yourself having a conversation around targeted pay as it relates to variable pay, stop what you're doing, right? You need to be talking about outcomes, and you want to be paying out more than whatever you're targeting, because that means you're succeeding against the target, right? The idea of like, we want to pay 80% of our, budgeted pay. And then if it goes above that, we need to move our goals such that we stay at that 80%. Or we need to move our goals down such that it stays at 80%. No, you're targeting payout. You're not targeting outcomes. If you have that, or if you start to have that conversations fall into that trap, immediately stop, because that is, you're going the wrong direction. I mean, the goal is you want to be paying out more, because that means you're executing against whatever it is you're incentivizing. And if you're paying less, then, you can look at your goals, but don't look at the dollars.
Mikey, I'm trying to remember which podcast that was. I think it might be episode 26, actually.
So before my time. So
it would have been September of 2024, because it was right before we went to the NBWA convention.
I think so too. You're right.
I recorded it on here, and then.
So everybody listen to podcast number 26. Just got really bored.
No, it's a prep one, Ross. We prep it out. Yes. I'm pretty sure it's episode 26. So for anybody who wants to go back and check it out, some of these episodes where you have your goatee, Mike, are incredible, by the way.
I should bring that back this summer. I'm going to be away from the camera for a little while this summer, so maybe I'll bring it back. Or just a mustache.
I love it.
That will really drive my daughter crazy. She won't even let me pick her up or drop her off at school if I did that.
With a mustache?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
She doesn't like the stash? You're too embarrassing, Mikey?
Not at all. Yeah.
Oh, that's a boo on Hannah.
I told her I was going to get, because when we go to all these school functions, I'm going to get a big giant shirt that says I'm Hannah's dad, and just do embarrassing shit in the stands the entire time. So if I showed up with that shirt and a mustache, dad of the year.
He loves that idea too. I love it. Next lesson, more of a more recent topic. Great reps are not the same as a compliant rep. This is one of our, higher listens to episodes. I think reps really grabbed onto this as well too, as like, hey, what makes a great rep versus a compliant rep? Ross, this is really important when it comes to the world of like order takers and all the costs that goes into the delivered cost, which sales is a part of that as well too, making sure that reps have autonomy. They are entrepreneurial. They're out there making decisions and driving results.
I mean, the key word there is entrepreneurial. And I mean, I encourage anybody to go back to that episode. I think we really drew that out and encapsulated it really quite well. But the type of people that excel in the type of role that sales is in our industry tend to have that more entrepreneurial streak to them, and you want to nurture that. And if you're too prescriptive, then you're going to destroy that that intuition, that culture, that soul in time, and that's that person. They're either going to leave or they're going to check out. So it's about nurturing the behaviors or type of behaviors that drive the outcomes. So it brings us right back to the idea of like, what are you trying to achieve? And the idea is you're trying to achieve, a relationship with the account. You're trying to achieve somebody that's willing to step outside the box, somebody that's willing to be hungry to push the needle against whatever goals you're setting and be rewarded for it. And also downstream see the positive efficacy of that, right? If your account is succeeding, you feel good. If you're doing something that is detrimental to the account or to that owner, because it's something that was mandated from above that you knew was a bad idea, you're going to feel pretty shitty about your job, unless you're the type of person that just enjoys pushing the buttons, checking the box. Then you don't care. But if you're the type of person that has a high degree of self-efficacy with the relationship that you have and you've built with the retail account, you're not going to feel good about that. So it's about aligning you to, your supplier, to your retailer, but, in creating a culture and a structure that nourishes the type of person that you want to drive the outcomes that you want. There you go. There's an hour and 5 minutes.
Episode 95, just 5 episodes ago, for those who want to go back and listen to it.
And that one might have ruffled some feathers too, and I encourage, if you're a rep listening to that, or even to this, if you're a rep listening to this, or if you're a manager, right? What kind of rep are you? What bucket are you falling into? And if you're a manager, what are you grading your reps on? Again, a recap: compliant reps is going to follow instructions, check all the boxes, just get it done. Whatever you ask them to do, they get it done. A great rep, they ask questions, they think. They're looking and noticing gaps in coolers. They're looking for opportunities and see opportunities without the spreadsheets and the gap reports. The best reps are out there treating their routes like a small business. They're constantly asking, what's missing here? What could I still do better? What does this retailer actually need? Compliance is important, but compliance is the floor. It's not excellence. So if you're a rep listening to this, or if you're a manager listening to this, how are you grading your reps?
You're going to have a bunch of reps go to their team leader to say, yeah, I'm not about being compliant, boss. I'm not doing this.
Right. Yeah, just because I didn't check all my boxes, but look what I did.
Be careful, see how that goes.
Yeah. Again,
on this podcast than it is in the real world.
Another one, Mikey, for you, your decoder ring: simplicity beats complexity every time on objectives and incentives, or really in anything on when it comes to pay. So you've got, your favorite decoder ring where you're saying, hey, we had 12 steps to figure out this objective or payout or incentive. You both have bugaboos about this in good ways, but we don't want to have that decoder ring on all the time, do we, Mikey?
I do. I still need to order one. I found one on Amazon, and I'm going to order it. And every time we go to any kind of industry event, I'm going to be wearing it. But no, it's something we've seen over and over again. Leadership loves sophisticated plans. Suppliers love sophisticated plans. Lots of metrics, layers, calculations, right? It feels smart. But the problem, the reps don't execute complexity. They execute clarity. So if a rep cannot explain how to win in 15 seconds, the plan is too complicated. And, funny thing is, simple plans always outperform the fancy ones. We see it time and time again. We have the luxury of seeing these plans and how they're executed. We see the design, we see the results. And the execution really comes when people understand how do they win.
I think we should just get a custom decoder ring, a VXP decoder ring, man. Or you might.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, not to rag on our suppliers, but a lot of this is supplier driven. We talked about it. I mean, the pie is shrinking, and as a supplier, it's a volume game. We just talked about how it's a GP game for the distributor, because we have over 1,000 active SKUs. We have 150 suppliers. But as a supplier, unless you're really, really big, like one of the 2 or 3 biggest, your margins are pretty uniform across your 1 or 2 brands. So all you care about then is pushing volume because all your margins are the same, right? And with the shrinking pie, everybody's scrambling for the next best creative way to get a piece of that pie. And again, the unfortunate, what's the word I'm looking for? Fallback position is if I just make it more creative, it'll be better. If I come up with the most creative that's ever been created, of course it's going to get the reps' attention because they've never seen anything so creative.
And with some of that complexity, Ross, not to cut you off at the button real quick, because this one gets me all the time, is how many times have incentives rewarded the people that are late to the game and excluded the people that are already there?
Oh, I hate that.
I hate that. I mean, the reps that are, hey, gain this, and get paid. But if you already have it, you didn't get paid. Well, they were the first and early ones out to the gate. And hey, now they're, they've already executed, but now you're rewarding the ones that were slow to get there.
Well, it's even worse with our program because if our program is doing what it's supposed to do, you're putting the products in the right accounts that it's going to turn, right? So you're already in the accounts that you want to be in as a supplier. So now you're coming in and saying, okay, I want a grow PO, point of distribution. All right, so I'll put 2 cases on the back shelf of this bodega and I'll pick it up in a week, next month. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're right, Mike. It ain't good.
At the end of the day, you've got complexity in the portfolio that you never had before, which really leads into the next lesson. If you're a supplier out there, or a sales analyst looking at and listening to this and be like, man, we do have a lot of complex ones. This is about attention and making sure that things can bubble to the top of a rep's mind without having a lot of drain on their brain cells in some way, shape, or form. There's only so much that they can get done in a given day. And if you have things that are too complex in the process, then it's too much load on the brain to actually make a decision or remember what it needs to do. Instead of, if it's super simple, super easy, super relevant, and easy is a loaded term, right? I use easy from the standpoint of that if I do this, I get this. It's really simple and easy. It might be a challenge to actually achieve that objective. What am I trying to achieve might be difficult. You might be asking the rep to do something that is a challenge. That's okay. Having it 7 or 8 layers where it's complex for me to understand what it means. So I have to put this cognitive load on my brain at 3 p.m. when I've already seen 15, 16 accounts. And now I've got to remind myself, okay, I need to do step 1 and 2, and I've already done that. So now what's 4, 5, and 6? You're just going to get left by the wayside. It's human nature and human behavior. When you look at how complex the business is, the market is, the retailers are, in the book that these reps sell, that's the game that I would want to play as a supplier is how do I attention arbitrage as simple as possible to get the results I want. And then that stuff that I want them to focus on will hopefully rise to the cream and the top of the brain more often than not. And that really moves to lesson 6, that for us as beer distributors, the market has changed faster than most of our playbooks did. Mikey, we fell into this trap at Atlas where, we knew it wasn't working in 2017, but it took us another 2 years to implement something that we thought would actually help us, which was ultimately VXP. As I was a client, we were clients first before we did this professionally. So, if you look back to the 1999 Beer Distributor Productivity Report, we had like 4 or 5 suppliers as an average distributor, maybe 10 or 15 brands, maybe 20 brands. And you're talking about, 300, 250, 300 SKUs. Now your average distributor has north of 60 suppliers, north of 400 brands, and north of 1,500 to 2,000 SKUs. And that's probably even more of your simpler markets out there. Clients across our marketplace breed everything from 100 plus suppliers, 300 suppliers to 7,000 and 8,000 SKUs. So being a rep to live in that environment, like, have you asked yourself as a leader, is your playbook coping with that complexity and actually helping the reps discover opportunities through the clutter, or is it stuck in the past? And if it's stuck in the past, you don't have to work with us. You just got to realize that, hey, it's stuck in the past. We got to do something different, because doing the same thing, expecting different results. And Ross, you watched this, for the longest time, and Mike, you did too, on the operations side before you came into sales. You saw the SKU proliferation as well. From this lessons perspective, what do you guys want to add in here too?
I think the biggest lesson here is pretending that business as usual and pretending that the game didn't change, right? Recognizing all the changes, recognizing the volume first thinking, portfolios growing with no prioritization, and just really realizing how much the market and the entire industry has shifted, and have we changed anything to adapt?
I think from my perspective is recognize the gift that fell in your lap and realize that it just made you the most important player in the value chain, right? Because you're the only conduit to market, often through legislation and through distribution agreements. But you now have 10 analogous products to go into the same slot. So you get to pick, right? You decide the fate, and you can optimize for your own profitability. And I think that, the other thing too is maximum variety allows you to better attune yourself to the retailer, right? If it's a Nicaraguan beer because it's like 20% of the neighborhood's Nicaraguan, now you've got a Nicaraguan beer, right? You're better armed to support the market you're in. You're better armed to support your own profitability. It's a gift. It's not. Yes, what is it? Opportunity and a threat. But this is an opportunity.
100%. It's a big opportunity. Even when we were bringing on more stuff, like the market was finding ways to organically grow for our piece of the pie, because we had more bullets in the gun. When you have more bullets in the gun, you got more weapons you can play with. At the end of the day, you can bring new results that you probably didn't have with that different size or different scale portfolio. Lesson number 7, middle management is often either a multiplier or a bottleneck. We have seen this in both ways, in a big way. And middle management is that tier like team leads, directors, territory managers, somebody who sits between senior leadership and the reps themselves. And they are a huge make or break point in our organizations as distributors. They're the ones that are in the trade more often. They're usually handling many, many different tasks when it comes to filtering down what a leadership and supplier execution needs or desires are, down to actual rep-driven results. So for me, this group of folks have become more and more and more important to clients' results and to the industry results, and they need to be leveled up more and more and more over the next 4 or 5 years, if not beyond that, around to more talent, more results, more capabilities than what they ever have been. And to Wes Verno, we'll plug him, like, gone are the days in which your team leads are your babysitters / relief reps, right? These are folks that need to have good strategy mindset. They need to have good leadership mindset. They need to be able to distill down what needs to get done and juggle a lot of balls at the same time. And we have met some of the most talented team leads out there, and it's exciting to see them work and really drive these executions. And the way we work with them now is really changed too over the last 100 episodes of how we interact with them and work with them and drive results with them too. Mikey, I can think of you as the leader of this kind of the shepherd who, really organizes this crew, because you've lived this world in a way that Ross and I haven't. So, tell us more about your perspective on this lesson as well.
Yeah, like I've always said, middle managers, team leads, ASMs, they're translators. Your primary job is coaching and translating, right? You understand the CEO, senior leadership understands the strategy and the plan. It is your job to make sure that translates down to the reps, that they understand the plan in their own language too, right? And that's where that translation piece comes in. Reinforce priorities, coach the behaviors, make sure the strategy fits in the real world, in the field, right? And how are we going to take that plan from senior leadership and translate it into a plan that fits not only in the field, but how are the reps going to understand it? So I think, understanding that piece of the pie first is a huge part of it, and then just coaching to it and being out there and being in the real world. Great middle managers are very rarely in the office. They're in the field. They're in the market. They understand the markets just as much as the reps do.
I always blow smoke up Bud's ass, blow some smoke up Mike's ass here. But I mean, me being in an account is so different than Mike, right? Because they look at me and I'm just an analytical desk jockey, and and Mike walks in, he's walked a million miles in their shoes. He's been every position and knows exactly what to do just walking in the account. And that's what you want your team leaders to be, that kind of person. You don't want them to be a me.
Or me.
Yeah, I was
Mikey all the way.
I was recently in the market with a team leader, and I talked to Bud shortly after, and I was like, man, one of the best team leads I've been with in a long time. And that was it. Walked in the account right away, knew exactly what we were missing to win. Didn't come down on the rep. Wasn't why haven't you done this? Why haven't you done that? Why are you doing this? This looks like crap, right? It was more about, hey, let's just take the reins, put them in our hands, and let's just do it. We're going to do this together right here, right now. We were primarily there to learn VXP, but more got accomplished inside of that account outside of just VXP and learning VXP too, because it was like, let's do this, let's do that. Hey, look at this. I mean, I think there's a huge opportunity here. Went right to the back, grabbed the manager, brought him out, him, the team lead, the manager, the account, large account too, and the rep all had a conversation right there and made an actionable plan on the opportunities that they saw.
We gotta love it. That kind of focus. Lesson number 8, portfolio complexity is real, but focus still wins. What I've realized over our time, I'll kind of go first on this one, is that when we first started working with clients and doing this on the podcast, right, it was focus is a teeter-totter, is what a lot of people came to think, that in order for something to remove focus, something else has to gain or lose in some way. And it goes back and forth, right? Teeter-totter. Like, to me, I've realized that reps focus is a spectrum, that it's actually it doesn't move the same way that we think about a teeter-totter. It spectrums itself across from no focus to extremely high focus. And just by adjusting the rep's perspective does not change what is in the top position or what needs to be focused on the most. A lot of things, they can juggle more than what we think they can. And if we change their perspective the right way, we will tweak their return on effort in the right way so that will open up more brain capacity for focus in new ways and in the right ways as well too. So that to me is like, you got to focus on what is working and what is winning. And you got to realize that something doesn't have to lose for something else to gain, because that's not the way that focus works in the human instinct and in the human behavior. And Mikey, I don't know if you want to tackle this first and think about it from the rep perspective that you've seen as well too.
I mean, the struggle is real, right? The portfolio explosion in this industry right now is crazy. More brands, more categories, not just suppliers and brands coming in, but more categories. And we're seeing all of these different products come into the market. So, I mean, complexity doesn't really remove the need for focus. It makes it more important. You need to have the focus. What are the right brands? What are the right SKUs? And that's not going to be one answer for the whole entire operation. That's going to be answered at the account by account level too. I mean, you don't have to win every battle to win, right? Pick 3 things that really matter the most, execute them well, and you're going to win. And again, that's probably not from the whole entire distributor level. That's going to be a more route by route or account level too. I see a lot of, there are some new categories entering the market. I'm not going to go and name those, but I see a lot of people using the phrase, hey, we're just throwing a bunch of shit at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you look at your complex portfolio, that strategy is not going to go very far.
Opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. This lesson number 9, Ross, this is really in your wheelhouse. Winners are getting more intentional, not just working harder. That there's more of intent to the decisions that I'm making, and that this isn't just about needing to do harder and harder and harder work. It's just being more focused and more intentional. I think that's 2 of the things that we talk most about together with clients from a leadership perspective, is how are you being intentional with what we're designing and asking and focusing on? And if you do that well, that filters down through the organization.
I mean, I think I've heard management and owners frame their company as, we just move boxes from A to B. And if that's what you say, then that's what you do.
That's what you get.
And at the end of the day, so much of why I'm sitting here is because I saw the opportunity that distributors need to elevate themselves to their position in the market. What I mean by that is, you are the most important link. You are the brand builder. You are the conduit to market. You decide who wins and lives and dies. So instead of being just, I take it from supplier to retailer. No. You are the market. You determine the market. You drive trends. You build brands. You are the most important piece of the chain. And I really enjoy watching distributors move into that space where they should be from a mental perspective of what they are.
I think that leads us to our last lesson, which is distributors have more control than they think. This is my favorite one at the end of the day that I watched, and really, under your tutelage, Ross, when we became clients first, you really helped me realize how much control we did have and how much insights and capabilities we had at our level compared to what I thought we did. And it changed the way our whole operation worked, so much so I'm obsessed with it day in and day out, still partnering with you, and am in the opportunity to actually run the business with you too on a regular basis and change the way the clients in the industry think. So that's why we're doing the pod. That's why we're doing the work that we do professionally, and why we have so much fun, because the three of us are obsessed with this day in and day out. This isn't a passion. Passion implies like energy and spits and spurts, right? This is an obsession. This is something we think about all day long, every day.
Yeah, as you say that, I literally was up last night, probably for an hour to an hour and a half, laying in bed, could not sleep, redesigning some of the parts of the app in my brain. Like I could not shut my brain off. And I'm like, this idea and running down that rabbit hole, and I just couldn't. And I'm like, I just need to go to sleep. And I'm like, oh, I'm on a roll though. I can't go to sleep.
I love it. Good stuff. Well, those are our top 10 lessons. We got through all of them. I'm proud of us. That is good stuff. And your guys' mind on, as we kind of wind down the episode and kind of move into the next section, what is it that we've learned, and how have our views changed over the first 100 episodes or any other timeline? I think we're really kind of picking on the first 100 episodes here, but Ross, maybe zoom out and help us start there. Things you've learned, views you've changed, things like that.
Yeah, I think that from my perspective, one of the most important life lessons that I keep having to learn, it's like, you have the same argument with your spouse every freaking time. It always boils down to the same issue. For me, it's always, you can be wrong and right at the same time. My flaw in life is I'm so focused on being right that I miss things. And for me, the fact that we grew into objectives and incentives was not because I agree with 90% of it, but because if we're going to do it, we should do it right. Right. So that was me learning from my prior mistakes. And we can get into my prior mistakes in life, in business. And I mean, you're not a good entrepreneur if you don't make mistakes. You learn from your mistakes, not your wins. But, I think for me, I'm always framing it through, am I trying to be right, or am I trying to do what the customer wants? Right. And I think we all, on our side of the fence, we're always thinking about walking that fine line between making sure we're being right, but also giving the customer what they want. And we do that day in and day out. And that's a constant battle internally, because obviously we have very strong opinions on this podcast. And in general in life, we tend to be very opinionated people, but we also have to leave space to be proven wrong and to adjust and meet the market where the market is today. And that's been our challenge. And I think that's kind of been my lesson across the last couple of years, is walking that line in a healthier way. And, obviously these two individuals have helped me in that respect, and being less myopic about being right. Because at the end of the day, from my perspective, we have this saying in the company, which is a lot of people buy the product for the objectives and incentives, and they stay for the VXP. So you buy it for the execution and you stay for the culture. Right. And what I missed is that people really do value that incentive objective side of things. And they really do end up coming to love the VXP side.
Mikey?
I tend to agree with Ross. I can be a very opinionated person, and I think everybody knows my views on supplier incentives. But over the course of the last 100 episodes and the last couple of years too, I guess I've opened up my mind to some of them. I wouldn't say all of them, but to some of them, and like Ross said, I can be wrong too. But no, I think overall too, just looking back at the whole 100 episodes and just where the entire market was 100 episodes and where it is now, a lot of the trends that we talked about early on are becoming much more real. THC is a mainstream conversation. AI went from abstract to practical. Profit pressure is really real. I mean, we see it day to day in all of our meetings. And I'm learning so much. I mean, people, when I go and I go on site and everybody's like, oh, thanks so much. I learned a lot. I learn more than they do most of the times. I'm in different markets. I'm in different parts of the country. We all do the same thing at the end of the day, but we all have a different way of doing it. And it's, to me, that is just so mind boggling, right? And all the different approaches. But I've really learned how this whole entire country has worked and the different parts in the different states and the laws. Oh my gosh, the liquor laws and the discounts and all that other stuff is crazy. I still can't wrap my head around a couple of those states and how they actually move products. But no, that's about it.
I'm the host of this show, so I've learned nothing new.
You've learned nothing
new. The thing I've learned the most actually is that, I come from running a small distributorship in a really, really bad market. In, Michigan is not a healthy beer market, or hasn't been for the last, decade, really. And you go back to 2000 probably is when it really got sick and really, really sad is, we're the only state in the whole country that lost population from 2000 to 2010. When you run a business that's based on per capita consumption and you have less capita, like, the business is tough. And I lay that groundwork to share what I've learned is that when you run a small distributor in a poor market or a really struggling market, your 10% growth or 5% growth or 50% growth doesn't matter compared to if you run a big distributor in a growing market in a major metro, right? And Ross and I will maintain, and I do agree with this 100% still, Ross, that we have more control when we give ourselves to. When you run a marquee distributor in some of these big markets like what we work with now, the TLC and the way that I would play the game with suppliers and the way they need to play the game with suppliers in terms of, tender love and care is a little different. And I've had to learn better language on how to get and help those leaders have those TLC conversations and change from my hard-nosed attitude that I left Atlas with into a little bit more political mindset and a little bit more understanding and reasonable mindset around the day-to-day results that they have to drive with their largest partners, their middle partners, and even their smallest partners as well. I think that's the thing that I've learned the most, Ross.
Yeah, I mean, just watching you, I think that, the mindset, if you're running a small distributor, it's life or death. And you don't have the flexibility of closing your eyes to what's happening. Let's put it that way. Or not re-optimizing. When you get to scale, you can hide behind scale.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean that, in fact, the opportunity is way bigger at a bigger distributor. I think that's where you've, stepped into, which is, how do you convince somebody that doesn't know they have a problem that there is an opportunity? It's not that they have a problem; it's just that they're not optimized. So how do you show somebody that they're not optimized when you can't see the problem yet? Again, half of life is luck and timing, but we're in a great position where the problem's gotten so big that nobody can unsee it now. There's still some people that got their heads in the sand, but they ain't going to be able to keep it in there much longer because the trends are continuing and they're going to continue, and it's becoming more and more obvious every single day.
Well, and how you want to win, like what winning looks like. That's the biggest question that folks need to ask for themselves is like, what does winning look like to you? And winning could look like, not doing anything. And winning could look like really wanting to do something different. It really kind of comes down to the eye of the beholder. I've got a hard nose about what I think winning should look like. And I have a big forehead and it's really flat. If you can see, you do, because I beat it up against the wall on a regular basis. So I got a really strong opinion about that. And that hasn't changed. It's just got a little more rounded over the last 100 episodes and the time that I've been doing this full time with you guys.
I think one other.
I think we do so much change in so many organizations that I think we get desensitized to it. I think that's a problem.
For sure.
Because we live in change. We live day to day thinking about AI and building product and rolling clients to live. So I think our challenge is to stay sensitive to the fact that every time we walk into these places, there may have not been much change for 5, 10, 15 years. And then we're coming in and just ripping shit apart. So, I mean, I'm just putting it out there to us as, stay humble about the fact that, we live in change. Not everybody does.
Yeah, that's a great point, because that kind of brought me up to something else that I've learned too. And that is on the change management side. I work a lot with people that are writing, tracking supplier objectives and incentives, and they may have been doing that the same way for 10 plus years. And when we come in with a new system, and not only trying to train them on a new system, but also trying to change the way that they're structured a little bit and trying to open up their mind to maybe better ways. Not necessarily that they're wrong, but hey, if you did it this way, we obviously always push simplicity too. But I've changed my approach on that a lot too, to where it's, instead of, hey, I'm going to tell you the better way, more of, I'm going to show you how you're doing it, and we're going to continue doing it how you're doing it, but I'm also going to expose you to this other way, and you're going to change your mind on your own. And then you're going to go, okay, yep, that does make more sense. And that approach for me has really worked. And I wasn't there 2 years ago.
Well, that is awesome. 100 episodes, boys. I'm proud of us for the level of commitment we've had for this. We have done this for 100 weeks in a row, and almost a full 2 years. Technically, it'd be 104 would be a whole 2 years. So we're gonna get close. We're gonna be there in no time.
From deserts, tropical places, to forest, to snowstorms, to all the places we've been broadcasting live, Europe.
Exactly. And we're gonna keep doing it too.
We're gonna keep just thinking about that episode that we were talking about. I was in Italy for that one.
Mm-hmm. So I love it. I love it. I love what we're doing. I have so much fun doing it with you guys every day. Mikey, thanks for sticking with me for all 100. Ross, thanks for joining and being in the last, 50 or 60. When I think you joined in like you said,
I've lapped a year yet. I'm pretty close to it though.
You gotta be pretty close to it. So thank you for coming along as well too. That makes 100 episodes for us. To everybody who has listened, shared the show, sent us an email, gave us an idea. We had a really great email this week of some appreciation email from a listener, which is always great to hear and always great to get. So thank you very much for that.
Suggestion.
Yep. And a great suggestion for an episode. So we appreciate the heck out of y'all for sharing and being partners with us and joining us in this journey that we're on. So, and if this is your first Tap 10 episode, welcome to the party. If you've gotten value out of any of this, please like and share with a friend and somebody in the business you think should hear it. So you boys rock. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you all again next week. Cheers.
Cheers.